Gypsy woman told my mama such a long time ago, you got a boy child coming. He gonna be a son of a gun. He gonna make pretty women jump and shout. Then the world will know just what he's all about. You know I'm him. You know I'm him. Well, I'm that hoochie coochie man. Everybody knows I'm him. Welcome to the Juke joint presentation in Kerrville, Texas. Put on you by the Historical Commission of Kerrville. What was a juke joint? Well, a juke joint was probably the last place that African Americans could go, especially during the time of slavery, could go and get away from the pressures of the world. Well, how can that be if he's a slave? Because they would do it after hours. They would find one house to go to, and that's what they would use. It would be a different house whenever they did it, but they would just choose one house, and they would go to that house, and that way they could sing, they could pray, they could laugh, they could dance, just to get away from the pressures that they were under. Well, when did the modern juke joint happen? That would have happened after Emancipation Proclamation. They still had pressure. There were lots of things that you could or couldn't do. But you needed a release, you needed an outlet. And the juke joint served as an outlet. Really, I guess you could call the juke joint a primitive coffee house, because it was a social place, it was a gathering place for people. Later, it became something more. They began to use in gambling, drinking, music, it was always there, and food. One of the big advantages of being a part of a juke joint was that you got to experience all types of music. Now, the two instruments of that time was not the guitar. The guitar came later. It was the fiddle and the banjo. As a matter of fact, that's what they had in slavery. When your music was done on the plantations, it was done with a fiddle and a banjo, which the fiddle, there was a form of a fiddle and a banjo in Africa, so that's why it was so easy for them to adapt to that musical instrument and learn to play it. The type of dancing they call them reels or digs or jigs. Is that what you do in old country western and bluegrass? Yes, yes. Every basics of music came from the blues, except opera and classical. But everything else got its roots in the blues. That's why the juke joints remain and are so popular today. When those juke joints were established, they gave the people that outlet to go a little bit further, to make a way, to have a way for themselves. During or in the 1960s and 50s, it was still difficult for black people and white people to come together or commune together and enjoy each other. So that's when they started the Chitlin Circuit. The Chitlin Circuit, part of the juke joints, that's where you went around to different places and you learned about art, or you were participating in art, you were participating in music, and you were participating in other cultural events. Again, it was a way for black people to come together to get rid of those pressures that they were under. And that brings us to the juke joints here in Kerrville, Texas. Believe it or not, in a 3-block area, we had 7 juke joints in that distance. The one existing juke joint that we have today used to be called John Silver's. It's on the corner of McFarland and Pascal Street. It's still in existence today. Today it's called Pernadas. It's an Hispanic juke joint. The Doyle district, or the black community, has always been integrated with these, as long as I can remember, with the Hispanic people and the African American culture. The other juke joints, the ones that were more popular, was the Dream which we do have a building, a picture of, and you have that one scanned already. Well, and the Dream is just a building now. It's just there. Sometimes it's dubbed as a rent house. There was the Cabin, which is a vacant field. Miss Ella Phelps, which was the classist of all the juke joints. And then you had the Green Door. The Green Door was established for kids when it was first established. Teenagers. You had to be 12 and older before you went to the Green Door. They went to the Green Door, they could eat, they could buy sodas, they helped each other with homework. Later on, they had dances, and it was an outside venue just like the Pleasure Garden would have been. They had dances just for teens. And then when the teens outgrew it, we didn't have any other teens coming up, so it became a juke joint. Now we're going to get into the most popular of all those juke joints. One of them would have been the Famous Door. And I'm sure all of y'all have heard of the Famous Door. The Famous Door was established in the 1920s by a man by the name of Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly had the Famous Door as a grocery store and a cafe. Later, it was purchased by Mr. Ed Bratcher, who was a chef at the Bluebonnet Hotel. And when he got it, he farmed it into something a little bit different. He made it, not only did he make it a restaurant, not only a musical venue, but he brought in top entertainment. He would go into San Antonio, go into Austin when they came, and he would bring people in. The Famous Door closed its doors in 1996, I think it was. But it was in its heyday, it was one of the juke joints that brought people together. As a matter of fact, in the history that's recorded on the historical marker, they say that the Famous Door was the first establishment in Kerrville to integrate. Now, I could question that because I think the Pleasure Garden was, but that's what the historical markers say, so that's what we're going to go with. The second one was, the second most popular one was the Pleasure Garden. Now, that's my favorite one. Did I attend those juke joints? Oh no, I was way too little. But I did listen to the music that came out of them. At the Pleasure Garden, there were 3 slabs there. There was a 15 by 19 slab, and it was owned by Hilly Frazier. And Uncle Hilly, everybody called him Uncle Hilly. Supposedly, he had the best barbecue in the region. People will come from San Antonio, Austin, Brady, all over just to get his barbecue. Any day of the week. It just didn't happen on a Saturday or a Sunday. Any day of the week, you would see different license plates outside of the Pleasure Garden trying to get his barbecue. He had another building. It was a 15 by 39, and that building is where supposedly he sold the coldest beer in town, and he also had the pool tables in there. Pool tables that leaned. People still played pool, but the most popular spot was the outside. On the outside, it was a 58 by 39 slab where people danced outside, under the lights, under the trees, under the stars, under the moon. And surrounding that slab were tables with chairs. That's where the people would sit, in the dirt. And then surrounding the tables and chairs was an 8-foot tin fence. Now that 8-foot tin fence had 2 openings. One opened to the Famous Door, or to the Green Door. The other one opened to Webster Street, taking you directly to Miss Ella Phelps, or taking you to the Famous Door, or taking you to Dollar School if you wanted some education. It was all there at the same place. And surrounding that were trees, hackberry trees, chinaberry trees, oak trees. And Uncle Hilly, just like at the Famous Door, more so than the Famous Door. Whenever those big blue stars came into San Antonio, Austin, and the surrounding area, he would go and talk them into coming here. And those people who couldn't get to San Antonio to see him, on any given Saturday night when they were here, they would end up at the Pleasure Garden. And they would play from starting at 6 o'clock in the evening, they would play till 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. How do I know? Because I lived about half a block away, and we could sit out there with my grandmother on the porch, and we could hear everything coming from the Pleasure Garden. I tried this kids would do this. I tried it a couple of times, because I was too scared of my daddy. I didn't want to get caught. But the kids would climb up in the trees on the outside of that 8-foot fence just to look over and get a glimpse of those blue stars. People like Gatemouth Brown was here. Big Mama Thornton, you ain't nothing but a hound dog. She played at the Green Door. They say B.B. King played one time. I don't remember hearing that name here, but that's what they tell me. Louis Jordan came here and he played. We had a principal by the name of B.T. Wilson at Doyle School. He was a black principal here. Later he became a math teacher at Tybee High School. He wrote a song. He wrote lots of songs, but one of the songs that he wrote became a recording. It was Chicky Mo, Craney Crow. Sentimental Journey Orchestra generally plays that song in honor of B.T. Wilson. But Louis Jordan took that and he recorded it. The flip side was beans and cornbread. So Prophet made a lot of money off of Chicky Mo, Craney Crow. Growing up in the Doyle community, surrounded by restaurants, good music, and good friends. That's what those juke joints represented. Because on any given day, you could go to the Famous Door, to the Cabin, to Miss Ella Phelps, to the Green Door, to the Pleasure Garden, to Pernada's, and you're gonna find somebody you knew. You're gonna meet up with friends. One of the songs that came out of that I still enjoy from that time period was a man by the name of Ida Johanna. I believe Freddie Fender also recorded it. Since I met you, baby, my whole life has changed. Since I met you, baby, my whole life has changed. And everybody tells me I am not the same. I don't need nobody to tell my troubles to. I don't need nobody to tell my troubles to. Since I met you, baby, all I need is you. Since I met you, baby, I'm a happy man. Since I met you, baby, I'm a happy man. And I'm going to keep you in every way I can. Since I met you, baby, my whole life has changed. Let's see, this is some memorabilia that I found and I hope I don't copy these bottles. At the Pleasure Garden, it's right across from where I work at the Doyle Center. And after the big rain that we had in June, this right here, it's probably a gin bottle. And it says, not for reuse by law. And on the bottom, I can't read it, but it's got some numbers on it. Or it's the serial numbers. D39670A52. And this one also has a tin top on it, so it's pretty old. And these numbers say 750152. No, 720152. And this one is by federal law forbidden for resale or reuse. And half pint. These old tin bottoms, this is the bottom of a tin. And this right here is the top of that tin, and you can see the slits used in with an old opener, right, to open it up. They put it on two sides. This one, they went through both sides of it. Usually, they would have one end that was larger than the other, and the other slit would just be a little slit, just enough to get the pressure out, so you get more, you could guzzle more beer. This right here is an old tin can, probably slits, because that's, if I remember correctly, that's what most of the folks were drinking at the juke joints. Slits and Falstaff, that's what it was. And this right here is an old tin flower that was above the door of the Pleasure Garden. And it was just laying out there after the big rain. There was some more flowers on it, and of course they were colorful back then. But, and I thought this was quite a find, when you were able to do that. Again, the juke joints it was a great place to gather. Kids would go down in front of the juke joint, and if you hung out too long, they ran your way. If they saw you doing anything, even a wino had a right to chastise you. If you said anything back, you got chastised again when you got home. It was the juke joint, the churches, the baseball team were the basis of the community. Community makes a village. Village makes family. Family provides and protects. And that's what that community did. But a lot of it came through the juke joints. I have a poem song that I wrote the other day, and I'm going to try to do it if I can find it here. It's called The Pleasure Garden, and again, it's my favorite juke joint. I guess because it's so close, and that's where we heard the music. I only went to the famous door maybe 4 times in my whole life. I went one time, my sophomore year in high school. I think I maybe stayed 30 minutes and went home. I went one time when I was in college. I brought some friends home with me. That may be the only time I went to the famous door, because I was too young for its heyday. But anyway, this is at the Pleasure Garden, and it's written semi to the tune of Doctor the Bay. Sitting under a big oak tree, recalling old memories, dreaming of what used to be, while visualizing Uncle Hildy. Lord, I'm just sitting in the pleasure garden, listening to the music of the great ones, sitting in the pleasure garden, recalling good times. I hear BB sing, I pay the cost to be the boss. I hear Big Mama Thought wailing, you ain't nothing but a hound dog. Lord, I'm just sitting in the pleasure garden, listening to the music of the great ones, sitting in the pleasure garden, recalling good times. When did all those times change? Lord, I miss those childhood dreams, dancing under the stars and moon, listening to those men sing their tunes, sitting here just wondering what happened to all of those things. Where could I go to find some peace and a simpler time? Lord, I'm just sitting in the pleasure garden, listening to the music of the great ones, sitting in the pleasure garden, recalling good times, recalling good times, recalling good times. One of the songs one of the dances that they would do in any of the juke joints at any time, when a slow song came on, they called it a slow drag. And it was just a form of slow dance, and there was 5 or 6 different ways, or 5 or different footwork for that dance. And some people would use them all in the same dance. Some people would just use one throughout the dance. If you were a little bit inebriated, no telling what you were doing. No, it didn't matter. So hopefully we're gonna do an Etta James song at last.
Oh, nice one. Nice.
I want to thank y'all again for giving me the opportunity to present for you. And if you've never been to a juke joint, if you missed the ones that were here, you missed a good thing. And we're hoping at the Doll Center that we can acquire the part of the pleasure garden, and our dream is to reconstruct at least a piece of the pleasure garden and bring back just a little bit of that memory, a little bit of that joy and pleasure to Kerrville. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Sitting under a big oak tree, recalling old memories, dreaming of what used to be, while visualizing Uncle Diddy. Lord, I'm just sitting in the pleasure garden, listening to the music of the great ones, sitting in the pleasure garden, recalling good times. I hear BB sing, I pay the cost to be the boss. I hear Big Mama Thorpe wailing, you ain't nothing but a hound dog. Lord, I'm just sitting in the pleasure garden, listening to the music of the great ones, sitting in the pleasure garden, recalling good times. When did all those times change? Lord, I miss those childhood dreams, dancing under the stars and moon, listening to those men sing their tunes, sitting here just wondering what happened to all of those things. Where could I go to find some peace and a simpler time? Lord, I'm just sitting in the pleasure garden, listening to the music of the great ones, sitting in the pleasure garden, recalling good times, recalling good times, recalling